Hi everyone, it's Nicole and welcome back to my channel. Today I am creating a spread in my art journal. If you previously watched my video from last week, I purchased a book at the Dollar Tree and I took some time to gut it and really thin out the book here on my channel, and I shared that with you. So today I'm going to do, it's not my first entry in this book, it is actually my third, but I believe it is the first one that I have actually filmed. So I thought I would share a little bit more about what I'm doing in this journal over the next month or so, and kind of focus on this as well as my other projects that I've been uploading. So today I'm working again. This book, it's called The Art of Tile. It I picked it up at the Dollar Tree, gutted it, took out about 2/3 of the inside pages out of the signatures, and when I pulled those pages out, there were a lot of pages obviously left. There were 2/3 of the book that, and I did not throw them away. I probably won't because it's something that I can actually use on my layouts, and that's exactly what I'm using today. So I started by prepping my background with white gesso, and you can see that even though it's prepped, you can still see that pattern of the pages through. So for this one, it really didn't fit the style that I was going with, but the circles that you just saw me cut out, those are tile patterns from other pages in the book that I saved from whenever I gutted it. So I kind of used them as pattern papers in this example. I like odd numbers, so I chose 5. I kept my 3 blues I plan on using on my left side of my page. My 2 pinks I will use on the right. I kind of laid it out real quick as so that you could see how my intention is to lay them out in the end, and I do keep them that way for the final project. When I laid them there, though, I took a pencil and traced around the outside of them, and that was because I'm going to take these acrylic paints from Bad Girl Couture, and I'm going to use those as my basis for my background. And I'm going to use primarily that light green, the light pink, the light blue. I do use a little bit of the white at the end, but you really can't see it a whole lot. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the top left with the green, fade down towards the bottom middle with the light blue, over towards the right, and then the top right is going to be pink, and I'm going to really work this in while it's all wet. And I was really fussing with my brush here, and it kind of ticked me off because this isn't it's not a very good high quality brush. I don't use my good brushes for whenever I art journal, and the bristles were falling out, so it was driving me nuts. So every once in a while you'll see me try to dig at 1 or 2 or 3 bristles and pull them out. But I used the paint, and while it's still wet, I tried to transition it from one color to the next. So I do go over it quite a bit back and forth to get that even blend. I do a pretty good job of it with the green and the blue, and even the blue into the pink I do pretty good, but at the top of the page in the middle, like where the pink and the green meet, it wasn't ideal, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't horrible. I'm really doing this, not one, to add color to the background, 2, to try to hide some of that pattern that was left from the tile on the pages that I'm laying over top of. Now, that's not always going to be necessarily the case, because if it's text, it wouldn't really bother me to let that text show through. In fact, I think that it would add to the layout, but this case, I did not. So you'll see me back and forth putting the circles down, seeing how it looks like, picking them back up, adding some color. Here I've already dried the green, the pink, and the blue first layer. It does look glossy. It's not 100% dry, but I just hit it quick with my heat tool, and that's because I wanted to come back in with the lighter blue and do just a real light dry brush around where I drew the pencil lines of my circles, just to add a little bit more depth to it. Once the circles are back on, it'll make a little bit more sense. On the right hand side, I try to do that same thing with white. My pink wasn't 100% dry at that point, so it blended in more than it looked like a dry brush. And then once I did get it dry, then the circle wasn't big enough, so I had to go back over it. But this is what it actually looks like when it is finally dry. It has that halo effect around the circles. Just a little bit of a different color to break it apart. And like I said, it gives it a little bit of dimension. And then I'm going to take some time. That was the bottle I just showed you was my multi-medium matte. That's what I use to stick a lot of my stuff down with. A lot of people use the gel medium. I've never personally used the gel medium, only because I have such a big bottle of this multi-medium matte that I feel like it's going to last me forever. But I think it's the same thing, except this is more of a liquid where the other is more of a gel. I'm really not a huge expert when it comes to things like that. All I know is this works great for projects like this. This is what I actually bought it for. It's a good adhesive, so I'll actually put a layer of that down, add my circle, and then put a layer over the top. Because one, it seals that in. It's going to glue that down. It's not going to go anywhere. And then two, I'm going to take and spread it out all over my page, because it then gives my page this this little bit of a layer where I can add a medium on top of it now, and it's not going to soak down through my papers or anything. It's going to spread nicely. You'll see that here soon with, I do that with my Faber-Castell markers. So all of those layers are down now. Everything is dry. My background is finally done as far as the base layer. My circles are done as far as them being in place. I'm going to take a few minutes to dry this, and then I'm going to come back in and add a few more layers. I have this stencil in my collection from Click International. This is this Vicky Bouton modeling paste, this Ranger spatula, the stencil I'm using, and then there's two other stencils. It is a kit that is available at Click Kits. I'll put the link down below. I love this little rubber spatula, and I've never seen it before up to this. And this is the first that I've actually used Vicky Bouton's modeling paste. And I really like this modeling paste. It was a nice thickness, and it was easy to work with. So I went through that, add it down. Sorry about the camera jiggle there for a minute. And I let it sit to let everything really dry. And I think I actually let this sit, I want to say overnight, because of that modeling paste. I wanted to make sure it was good and dry, because I'm coming in now, as you can see here, with my ink blending tool and a couple different archival inks to do an edge around my page. I felt like that there wasn't enough of an edge, so I picked coordinating pink, blue, and green that matched the colors. It didn't make it very dark, but it was enough that it added that border around it to keep your eye on the page. So I was satisfied with it in the end of what it looked like. In fact, these three colors were a very good close match to that. I was really happy with how those all turned out. So now I'm going to bring in the big guys. These are my Faber-Castell big brush markers. I love these. This is why I like to use the multimedia matte. And this is the reason why here. It's because I can take my Faber-Castell markers around my papers and other things that I use in my art journals, color it down like a regular marker, and then you have time to move it and smudge it with your finger. And I love that about the combination of the Faber-Castell and the multimedia matte. I love that. You do have some wiggle room. You could really see that technique here with the black. You have some time to move the color around, and then it dries permanent. I want to say the Faber-Castell is an archival ink also, but don't quote me on that. But it is a permanent ink once it's dry, but it gives you a little bit of the movable time with this. So I found a blue that was kind of close. It wasn't 100%, but it was close enough for me. And also the black I paired there with that smaller circle on the top. It was a lot darker than what I thought it was going to be, but that's okay. Same thing with this pink. I had more of a fuchsia marker instead of a pink marker. I have a limited collection of these, maybe like 6 of these markers. So I was trying to pick what was the closest with what I had. And it really does work out in the end. With I'm going to add some journaling around it, and it does help take the attention away from it. But I really like how that looked. I still felt like that it needed something. And when I feel like something needs something, I either grab one of two things. I either grab my Dina Wakley white gloss. It's a white gloss spray. It's newer, and the Heidi Shine. I love this Heidi Shine. It's a Heidi Swap Color Shine in gold. So I'm actually I shook it up real good, unscrewed the nozzle, and I'm just using the nozzle just to willy-nilly draw it around the edge of the circles. And I love this. I think this is probably one of the 2 techniques that I used on this page that I will definitely use again. This was one of them. So I just took that, traced it around the circles, and then I went back and added a little bit of splash, because once you do some Heidi Shine, I can't stop, and I keep doing lots of Heidi Shine. So adding in some splatters, and then again, really, really letting that dry. I didn't want it to smudge or smear, and I thought that was good enough, but I still felt like that the background pages were missing something. And I had this random circle cluster stamp. I'm honestly not sure what collection it's from. It's probably about a year old now, and I pulled out those inks and I just used it to stamp random patches of these circles on my page, and that was what it needed, in my opinion. So I went around, I did tone on tone color. Green inks went on the green side, blue inks went on the blue, pink went on the pink. I think that this added a lot of dimension to the page in the end, and this is the second technique that I've used this one before, unlike using that nozzle on the Heidi Shine. I've used this one before, and I will use this one again. This is a really good go-to, especially if you have like a script stamp. Shapes work well for this. It just adds that little extra touch, and whenever it's tone on tone, it's not so eye-catching, but it's just enough. So moving on, here is the white, the Dina Wakley white gloss that I was talking about. I usually grab this or the Heidi Swap, and this page, they both landed on it. So I wanted to pull a little bit more of the white out from the modeling paste that I had used with the stencil. So I went through and added some white splatters. I love how this stuff dries. It dries glossy. It does not dry matte. So it's perfect. So then I just kind of stumbled and pondered for a while of what I was going to do for the writing, I guess you could say, on the page. So I thought of doing some encouraging words, and then it kind of took a turn. I was going to do beautiful, creative, and then to come up with a third word. And trying to do that, I pulled my thickers out that I've had in my stash forever. And honestly, you guys, if you have a lot of thickers left in your stash, this is a great way to use them. Pull them out, use your random words on your art journal pages like I did here, and it's perfect. I used the words shine, dream, and create. Because of all the mixed media on my background, I did glue them down. The dream and the create, mostly, those were more of a cardboard word. The shine on the bottom left that I'm putting on now, that was a foam adhesive, and that one really had a lot of stick left to it. So that one I didn't really have to worry about it. I probably will go back and add it at some point just so that I don't lose the dot to the I and some other things. But yeah, that's a great way to use up some thickers that have been in your stash for a while. So I'm going to definitely do that one again. I really liked that. And it doesn't add a whole lot of dimension. It just adds some texture and other things. So I used those in those sticker sheets. There were some elements like the yellow heart. So I pulled in a few of those on the top left. There's a couple. I do glue those down. And then the gold glitter, the heart there with kind of like that starburst around it on the bottom left, and then the star on the right page. I added those too. Those were all elements on those sticker sheets, so it was perfect. Glued everything down, let it dry, and then I started doing my journaling. Shine, I put down always shine bright. Dream, I put always dream big dreams. And then on the create side was always create beautiful things. Even if you don't think they're beautiful, I think we are sometimes as crafters too judgmental and too hard on ourselves. No matter what we create, it's beautiful. So it's just little reminders, little inspirational pieces. But after I put that down in the black writing, I felt like, well, you added another color. I needed to bring more in. So I went through and grabbed some of my black enamel dots, added some dots here and there. Those are older, so it is thinner than what it should be. So some of them ran together. I really didn't mind it. In fact, I'm going to go and add to it. This is black acrylic paint that I'm putting on my stamp block. I'm going to add some water to it and just do some random splatters. And I love how the lines of the splatters are added. And you can see it in the close-ups here coming up. But that's it. Then I'm going to let it dry and it's all finished. Thanks so much for stopping by. Here's a couple close-ups for you today. Please subscribe, hit that bell notification. That way you're notified every time I upload a video. And until next week, whenever we do another art journal page together, I hope you all have a wonderful and creative week. Bye.